We have John Briggman. He is a team member of Explorers of the Unknown live with me. And this is a cool opportunity to talk about some things that I really always wanted to ask you. Tell me a little about yourself, your military experience.
I was a career soldier for about 24 years, deployed multiple times overseas. I was within the drug war for about 5.5 years. Throughout my career after 9/11, more deployments, retired at 24 years, became private military contractor. I was there doing that for roughly about 6 years, a couple tours in Iraq, and more than 5 tours in Afghanistan.
Thank you for your service. Wow.
No, thank you.
Wow. This is really cool. I mean, you're this amazing person, and I just know you as
War
Wardog.
dog.
Wardog. I know we know you as many names. You have a special way of doing an investigation. You're very meticulous. It has order. Most ghost hunters just running about. You respect.
Mhm.
You do the research. You respect where you're going. It's the way it should be. Kind of talk a little
Mhm.
about that and how you approach ghost hunting.
Okay, so the way I do it is, even though I know that spirits are real, ghosts are real, and I've seen them full apparitions, even though I know that they are real, I still take a very skeptic type view of doing an investigation. If I see something with my eye and it's a full apparition, it's like, okay, so what possibly can be something else? Could be a reflection. I'll use all different angles to disprove that it was a ghost or a spirit or an apparition. And if I can't disprove it, then what I saw was true. It's an apparition. I go with a view of skepticism, a large amount of skepticism, even though I know that they're real. So
Right. It's like every time we go out, you see something and you know what it is, but you also know that your brain shadows plays tricks on you. It just happens.
definitely.
Your brain says, "Oh, that looks like a face. It's like a thing." And I'm with you on that. So you're looking for some proof. You want to see it and really see it, but you use other senses. Talk about that. This is where you come in and you're the special ops. You coming in with a different kind of take on stuff. Tell me about that. Yeah.
Specialized gifts.
Yeah.
So I was born basically clairvoyant. I've been clairvoyant since a little child, probably about 5. I've seen multiple spirits throughout my entire life. And growing up, I thought pretty much everybody could see those things. Not until later on in my adult life, I fully came into it. And that was when I joined basically paranormal team. And once I did that, things just opened up. I took classes to basically advance my mediumship. And through that, I was able to learn how to do remote viewing, which is basically I can focus in on or concentrate on a photo or a picture of a person or a house. And if it's a house or a residence, I can actually, through meditation, go into that house, make contact with spirits or any entities that are in there. And I can see basically what is in the house and what's surrounding the house
Remotely. So
remotely.
with just a photo, you can meditate and get yourself to the home, inside the home, around the rooms, identify entities, and can you communicate with them as well? Or?
I can communicate with them, but I can also do it like I can go above the house and scan the outside land. If there's dark spots on the land, then it's kind of like something has happened in that area. There is either maybe a death, or it could have been a battlefield, or something negative happened. But basically, I can go into the house or the residence, make contact with the apparitions, kind of find out what's going on.
Do you think that being military, on point, tip of the spear, your senses, you think that opened it up, or you've always had it?
I've always had it, but with the military, it kind of heightened my senses even more. It's called hypervigilance. It's part of my PTSD, but being clairvoyant and everything else, it's actually a plus. It's a big boost. It's a positive. So instead of not noticing things, with being hypervigilant, I notice everything. And it just helps me make contact with spirits.
It's the curse as well as the blessing, isn't it? John Briggman here is a MUFON member, 25-year war veteran.
I am a former MUFON member. I have a lot of contacts, high contacts, and they do a lot of great work with different cases. So,
I mean, you're as bona fide as it comes with the military background. I mean, you're bona fide by MUFON. Really stoked to have you as a team member. You bring a lot of value. I'm just pumped. I want to know about remote viewing. Tell me about it.
the CIA back in the 1950s, they had a project that was called Project Stargate, which is where they use remote viewers to basically train them and try to spy on the Russians.
Oh, wow. The government project is called Project Stargate. It was a US government-funded program that explored the use of remote viewing, a form of extrasensory perception, ESP, to gather intelligence and conduct reconnaissance during the Cold War. This is a real thing. The program began in 1970s and was primarily managed by Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, and Stanford Research Institute. However, its roots can be traced back to early government interest in psychic phenomenon during the mid-20th century. Interesting. The purpose, to determine whether individuals could use remote viewing to see events, locations, or information at a distance, even across continents. The US government initiated the program partly because of reports that the Soviet Union was researching similar psychic phenomenon for espionage purposes.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it was like a arms race of the paranormal. While some claims of success were reported, the scientific community remains skeptical. The program was officially declassified and terminated in 1995 as the CIA concluded that remote viewing had not provided actionable intelligence.
Basically, what they were trying to do just didn't pay off for them. But here's the thing. Now, the CIA supposedly shut it down back then, but I know a couple of remote viewers who are actually being tested by the government. I know our government is still doing it.
And I think if we're running the show, I think we would too. They probably put millions of dollars into it too. I mean, the way the government wastes money.
Oh, yeah.
It must have been some, I like to think it was nice and it was pretty, but it was probably real cold and sitting in a room, some paint and I mean, like they're standing over you, like, I mean, it ain't no hippie thing. You're in a plush room with pillows.
It'd probably be like almost like an isolation chamber. No sound, very little light, nothing on the walls, no windows. A place where that remote viewer could just focus on what they were supposed to be focusing on. Viewing goes back quite a while. I mean, it goes back, oh God, a few hundred years. It's always been used. Oracles, the Greeks have used it throughout history. Remote viewing has been done. It's gone under different names. But back in, I believe, the 1950s, 1960s, the CIA here in the United States, they were interested in remote viewing. So what they were doing was they were getting different clairvoyants, mediums, and they were testing them. They were basically in isolated areas. They were either given a picture or a photo of a person. They would have the medium, the remote viewer, focus on that photo and find out where in the state or in the country that this person was. What they would do was they would pick up on different objects, whether it would be, say, a city or a house or a park, and they would write everything down, sketch everything out, write all the information down. Then they would turn that information over to their handler. So we weren't the only ones who were doing this. The Russians were doing it. Governments were very interested in remote viewers.
I mean, obviously, if they can crack this code, this would be a huge asset, spy asset. I mean, the possibilities are definitely worth exploring. Well, that's really cool. And then the project is still going, or we don't know?
Supposedly they ended the project, but I know for a fact through MUFON that I met another remote viewer, and she was being tested by the government. So even though they say that this type of operation has ended, I'm pretty sure it's still going on.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's a thing about whoever's doing the remote viewing. Are they treated well? Are they willing? Or are they brainwashed? Or they brought up in this environment so that this is what they think is right? It's a lot of ethical questions. That's why they can't even go there. Okay, let's just get right to it. Give me a good remote viewing story where something just incredible happened. I want to know. Visually bring me there. Like, is it like you're flying? Is it like at a body?
With the paranormal team, we had just gotten a case, and our manager handles all the information. She will go with the homeowner, collect all the information that they're experiencing, and our case manager will give me the address or a picture of the residence. From there, what I do is I sit back, I meditate, I focus in on the photo, and then from there, I basically kind of like it's almost like flying. I'll find myself standing outside of the residence, and then from there, I'll walk in. And on this one particular case, they were having paranormal problems, and I was trying to make contact with whatever was in the house. And it happened to be, I believe, a little girl that was causing a lot of the problems. So when I entered the house, I walked through the rooms, down the hallway, everything like that, and I kept on seeing like horses. There were pictures of a barn with somebody standing next to a horse on it, multiple pictures, multiple items of horses. And so I thought that maybe they had a small pasture out back. So I collected all the information, wrote down everything, handed everything over to my case manager. We got permission to go into the house, do an investigation. As we enter the house, I'm trying to figure out where the horses come into play. And I checked out back, there's no pasture or anything like that. And I even asked the homeowner, do you own horses? Do you have anything to do with horses? And they said, no, we don't own any, we don't ride or anything like that.
So you can be doing a remote viewing and be conscious of what's going on around you?
Well, once I collected all the information, we got the case.
So you're there, you're going down the hallways, you sense some, is a horse is there for some reason, and then you look around, right? So you were there kind of a while, or is it just a flash? How does that work?
When I'm in a light trance state, which is where I do my remote viewing, I'm able to go into the house. So I'm walking around the house and I'm able to see what is in the house. And for whatever reason, kept on coming up. But once I came out of that meditative state, I wrote down all the information. After that, we contacted the residents. They invited us in to do our investigation. Once we got in there, I started walking around the house. I was physically boots on the ground, walking around the house, and I couldn't figure out where all these pictures were coming from with the horses. And I checked with the homeowner to see if they owned any horses, and they didn't. And she goes, but we do have, when we moved into the house, the prior owners had all these pictures of horses and farms. And that's where it came in.
Wow.
It wasn't the owners at that point, but it was the prior owners who left some of their belongings there.
When you remote view, do you skip through time periods? How does it work with like that? I mean, I'm trying to get a grasp on it. I can only imagine in my sci-fi mind how it would be, but tell me about it. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's not so much skipping through time, but it's just working within the present time. And, you know, it can be used for a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be here within the state. It can be around the world. And I've known some remote viewers to actually do remote viewing, say, on the moon or on different planets.
So, wow. I mean, this is such a power that humans have that we're not tapped into. It's so incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah. Incredible. We're all dulled up. So give me a feeling when you're there. Do you have feelings like nervous? I'm afraid. Does it ever get like it's danger? Or since you're remote viewing, there's none of that. You're just looking Tell me about that.
When I'm remote viewing, I'm pretty much just looking. It's kind of like almost like being a ghost yourself, kind of like walking through the house. So your physical body is planted, but your spirit is actually moving throughout the house. So your physical body is actually planted, but it's actually your spirit that is remote viewing. It's moving throughout the house or the residence or the surrounding area. It's close to almost like being a ghost.
Do you have an ability to go where you want, like a lucid dream, or does it just take you places?
It kind of takes me places. I may start in, like, say, the kitchen, and then from there, if I'm looking around, if there's a doorway, I'll go down the hallway, kind of almost like a interactive video game.
What are the things that are you trying to discover?
Okay, so with remote viewing, my main thing is trying to make contact with whatever entity or spirit that is within the house. Not only that, but to pick up on different items within the house that when we go to investigate, I can prove that they're there. Just like with the horses.
Wow, that must be something. When you see something, you go to location and there it is. It's confirmation. It's honing in your skills. You're getting a step closer to maybe finding it, whatever that is. That must be a really cool feeling.
Actually, it is.
Yeah, like tingly, like, wow, I'm using these powers. So question, so before you go on what we call a paranormal investigation, you remote view it first. It's almost like in the military, you'd call that what, like a recon, or what would that be?
It'd be reconnaissance. Before my team goes in, I basically go in and see what's there. So it's basically a reconnaissance for my team.
That's incredible. So when you do find points of interest from your remote viewing, what happens next?
For me, going in and finding those points of interest, it's confirmation that, my skills are working, they're getting stronger, gives me a good feeling. Not only that, but it also helps validate whatever entity is in the house. So if I'm picking up on different objects and those are being validated, it helps me validate with the spirit that's in the house that I'm trying to communicate with.
And then in scenarios where there is something there and it's all lining up, do you what then? I mean, how do you handle it? Because do you know what you're getting into because of the recon?
Right. So once I make contact with the entities, my job is to basically figure out or ask them why they're doing what they're doing. It could be the spirit died from a violent death, or it's unfinished business, or they just don't want to be moved on. And sometimes when they don't want to be moved on, we kind of have to coax them and help them move on. So
that's interesting. Sometimes they don't know they died, right? Sometimes it happens so sudden. Another is it's residual, right? They walk down the hallway so much that it's just a trace of them, almost a trace of their life.
Yeah, that's residual haunting.
And then they do know they're an entity and they just don't want to go.
Right. A lot of them are territorial. They built a house, they stayed on the land, they don't want to go. So,
I mean, this is a time period in the 1800s, 1700s, early 1900s. You get a house and you build it with your hands.
Yeah.
That means everything. Yeah. And all these folks are old world, come from Europe. They're real hard individuals.
Yeah, they did everything. So can't blame them.
If someone has these abilities, what advice would you give them?
For the people that do have some abilities, they can either accept them or they can deny them. If they do accept them, they just have to start developing them. And that comes through basically finding a good medium who gives classes. And through classwork, you get stronger, you develop. And from there, the mediumship moves into different areas. So you have like clairvoyance, you have remote viewing. There's a lot of different ways you can go with this. So with being clairvoyant, developing your mediumship, everything like that, once you get stronger and develop your mediumship, it'll move into, say, like remote viewing. From there, you can work with tarot cards. You can do a lot of different things using different divination tools, say like the Ouija board or scrying. Right now, I'm actually putting together a class on scrying for a shop that I work at. So I'll be teaching that.
What is
So
that? I never heard that one.
scrying, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've heard of Nostradamus?
Mhm.
Okay,
He was
so
Nostradamus was the predictor of world events that
right,
they all come true.
exactly. He was a scryer. And what he did was he used basically a bowl or a chalice. It's called hydroscrying. And basically, you do it in a dark room. You have like a candle that's lit, and within the bowl is either water or wine. But what you do is you focus on the water or wine that's in the bowl, and from there you start meditating. You go into like light trance, and from there images will start appearing into the water. So that's hydroscrying. There's what I'm teaching is mirror scrying. And what that is you basically get a black mirror. Same thing, you have one candle, the room is darkened, and you focus within the mirror. And what happens is things will start developing within the mirror itself.
Cool.
And the first time that I did it, I scared the hell out of myself. So what happened with me staring into the mirror is it kind of gets a little bit almost like misty or foggy. And from there, pictures will develop. And what I saw, and this was 4 years ago, what I saw was the East Coast in flames, on fire, going towards the West Coast. The Statue of Liberty was melted and marred and burned. And then from there, that was the last time that I subscribed for quite a while.
Yeah.
It scared the hell out of me.
I mean, end of days. We're talking end of days here, right? I mean, and
Especially with the situation that we're in right now.
oh, must have
Yeah.
just really kind of conjured that up. Oh, this is great. Next time we go out paranormal investigating, you're going to do a remote view session before we go. We're going to document everything. This is going to be really cool. All right,
Cool.
guys, this is John Briggman, one and only.